I approach it as a recruiter before I approach it as a franchisor because it's all about matching people with their skills.
Mhm.
Then there's chemistry, and then there's culture. Do they fit? And those three dimensions are really a big part of our recruiter training. And that's how, we match people rather than resumes to job openings. And that's where the algorithms of some of these job boards leave off. You can find
Sure.
55 resumes in your city that are accountants with a CPA background with 5 years of experience. But that employer doesn't want to interview all 50 people, right?
Right.
So they say, Gino, you net that down to the top two, three, four people, and based on what we're looking for, and that's what we need you for, to vet those people to make sure that they match our qualifications, not only on the technical side, but on the people side and the human dynamics, which really makes a relationship work.
Welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing. Each episode takes a deep dive into the franchise space and explores how the biggest and best brands handle national branding, franchise development, employee recruitment, and localized marketing on a daily basis. This podcast is brought to you by NetSertive, a localized digital marketing partner for franchise networks. NetSertive's Madeleine Park talks shop with franchise executives to discuss what's working, what's not, and answers the question, what else can you be doing to excel at the art of franchise marketing?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Art of Franchise Marketing. I am Madeleine Zook, your host, Director of Marketing at NetSertive. And today we have Gino from American Recruiters. Gino, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So Gino is the CEO and founder of American Recruiters. And I'm so excited to have you on today because I think not only has this always been an industry that's in need, but now since we're post-pandemic, I feel like we're in a sort of funk. Whereas, is it a recession? But people still have money to spend, but we can't. And employment is just the most complex matrix of getting the right people in the right place, and then having it not classified as people don't want to work or people just want to make more, because I think that there's so many intricacies around that. So to have a brand that focuses on that, I think is going to be really informative for a lot of people. So without further ado, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in this? I know that you are the founder. So why did you decide to start, and how have you stuck with it for so long?
Well, when I started with American Recruiters, we were a very small local employment agency in downtown Fort Lauderdale, and it was July of 1986. And times were different back then, Melanie. And you
Sure.
talked about how times change. We didn't even have a fax machine when I joined the company. It wasn't affordable for small businesses at that time. So, fast forward, the owner at that time retired in 2000, no, excuse me, 1994, and I purchased the company from him. And we expanded it to a multi state, multi-function executive search firm. And now, in 1999, we even started franchising, which was a windfall for us. It's kind of a neat story. But at the end of the day, it's been 38 years in this industry, and how times have changed from manual employment applications and resumes all the way fast forward, or let's say quantum leap, to what we're doing today on this Zoom call, for example. It's just a different world we live in. So the quantum leaps have been unfathomable from back in 1986. It was kind of like Star Trek-y is right where we are right now.
I love that. And it's so funny because I feel like for a lot of people, you say the fax machine and you have this ongoing like to-do list in your head, right? One that's always been in the back of my head is like, you need to learn how to use a fax machine. And to this day, I hear fax machine and I'm like, oh shoot, I still got to figure out how to use one of those. And then I'm like, wait, I think I missed that that boat completely. So yeah, you're completely right about that. I think my old business card still had a fax number on it. So talk about quantum leaps in terms of how fast things are progressing. So talk to me about American Recruiters. What is the brand's mission? What are the specifics of what you do? And now that you I don't want to say have just gotten into franchising, but are really focusing on franchising, what are your goals there in terms of locations and growing the brand?
Yeah, well, I think from a timing standpoint now, you talked a little bit about the job market and the uncertainty out there. And the truth is the job market's very strong right now. There are some technology companies making cutbacks, and it's forecast as being a sign of the times to come. And the reality is these big companies, as you well know, they're all about profits and profitability.
Hmm.
So a lot of times the cuts that they make just have to do more with them making their numbers or their Wall Street projections than it
Exactly.
does with the job market. I'll give you an example. One of the strong, let's call it a staple of American recruiters, is healthcare. And
Hmm.
people are sick regardless of what's happening on Wall Street or the real estate market, et cetera. And even from a hospital perspective, I know this might sound a little, kind of maybe a little exaggerated, but it's not. They really have to staff the hospital almost two times because they have a day shift and a night shift,
Sure. Yeah.
and those needs are never going to go away. And to piggyback on healthcare, the skilled nursing and long term care element is burgeoning because baby boomers are living so much longer now
Hmm.
and well into their 90s and 100 years old, which wasn't forecast, 25, 35 years ago. So now I'll give you an example. There's about 7,000 hospitals in the United States. There's, believe it or not, 17,000 nursing homes, plus or minus. That number changes, and that's still not enough. They expect, and I say they, the federal government expects the need to grow by 300% in the next
Oh,
10 years on the nursing home side. So, healthcare is always going to be there, regardless of, what's going on with the stock market. The same for technology. Technology is still the backbone of the world. There's going to
hmm.
be some bumps, or let's call them corrections, in that market. But at the end of the day, that's here to stay because that runs the world now. So
Sure.
for those listening that have kids in college in technology, good move. In health, good move.
So that is so true of that people. I think we talk a lot about this in like home services or nursing home. People aren't going to stop getting old. Your house isn't going to stop getting dirty, but a more, I would say, industry that we don't think of things that way is yet people are going to continue getting sick. People are going to continue needing help. And you see all of these stories on hospitals being understaffed. And to your point, they kind of need to hire double time because they're open 24/7. Is such an important piece. And now talk to me about how your model works in terms of a location. Um, how are you finding these franchisees? Because, or I don't want to say how are you finding the franchisees, but what does it take to be a good owner in your brand? Because a lot of, most times in franchising, hiring and recruiting and retention is the biggest pain in the ass for these franchisees. That's what they hate the most. It's what they struggle with. And your whole model is completely around that and doing that for others. So how are you guys finding those people, and what is your brand to ensure that this is a successful model, that there are people out there, you can get all of these people and place them where they need to be? Because I think that's a lot. It's a Pandora's box that a lot of people fail to even want to open.
Yeah. Well, think of recruiting firms as a hospital for hiring headaches,
I like that. I like that.
right? And very commonly, businesses use many facets to staff, whether it's their own website or their job postings on various job boards. Companies even have pretty generous referral programs for their employees to say, hey, refer your friend who can do this job and we'll give you a nice bonus. When a company has exhausted those resources,
Hmm.
that's when they call us. And what makes us different is we go after the passive job seekers rather than the proactive job seekers. Now, let me give you an example. The proactive job seekers have their resumes on job boards and the internet. LinkedIn, etc.
Yeah.
And the companies, by and large, have already ran that gamut to find good people, and they still came up empty.
Hmm.
So we go after the people that are currently working in similar roles to identify if they may have an interest in an opportunity that might be a little more attractive than their current situation. And
Hmm.
if they are, we talk to them about why the change and what is it that you're looking for? What would that next step up in your professional career look like? What's your vision of the future? And we get into some detailed questions about what it would be like if they were to make a change. And then, of course, we match that against our client needs, whether they're actual current openings or whether the clients that we work with say, hey, Gino, if you ever find somebody like this that meets these criteria, we'll make room for them. You give me a call.
Hmm.
So some of our clients are always looking, like healthcare nursing shortages just is what it is. It's been that way for decades and it's not
Right.
going to get better. So, we try to teach our recruiters how to fix the hiring headache by doing things that those companies aren't doing or can't do, don't have the time or the labor or the training, frankly, to
Hmm.
do it on their own. So when it gets to a point where they kind of wave their white flag and they say, yeah, we need help with this position, that's when we get the assignment. That's when we get the nod.
And so you kind of have, it's crazy. You kind of have a twofold client here because you have the people that you're gonna, place in other jobs, and then you have the companies that are looking for said, you know, people. How are you keeping both of those pipelines full? Do you rely on a lot of digital marketing? Is it a lot of like manual reach out? What kind of marketing works in this day and age? Because like you said, you're going after people that are in a more passive search. So that's got to be more difficult than the people who are actively looking.
Yeah, and there's one more thing I want to throw into your mix of potential,
Yeah.
areas where we find
Yeah.
people. We've been in business for as long as we have, since 1982. Our
Sure.
contacts in our database, our outreach is immense. So
Hmm.
sometimes the people that are perfect for these roles that come to us each and every day, we may already have relationships with these people that say, hey, look, if you ever find something that is
Hmm.
in this city or this state, this function, this compensation package, then certainly we have those available to us as well, which is something that a lot of companies themselves don't have that outreach. But
Sure.
our efforts are a multi pronged approach. Think of it as, spokes in a hub. You
Yeah.
know, these spokes can range from anything from digital marketing to now social media is a big one, right?
Hmm.
Referrals and sourcing, research. I think some of the times are now such that artificial intelligence is very helpful with those
Sure.
things. But we also do something, Melanie or Madeline, that a lot of recruiting firms also do, is that we go to trade shows and we get into a lot of those trade events and trade associations
Hmm.
where niche type people, like nurses is a niche, for example, right? So we're always in front of them so that when they have a need, they know
Hmm.
who to call. And it's very similar to a physician, just because you have physicians for your children or your family. You don't call them just to say hi. You call them when you need something. And recruiting firms are like that. The clients and or candidates call us when they have this career wound, so to speak,
Hmm.
and then we kind of help them heal it. Showing them what's out there for their skills. So the how do we present ourselves to the marketplace is pretty broad, pretty
Yeah.
you know.
And you talk about that, longevity of a database. And it's interesting because that plays so much differently into the KPI of, the average cost to get a client or the lifetime value of a client per se. How do you build that into your benchmarks? Because like you said, it's not a need until it's a need. And so you have to be there and constantly be there and constantly marketing and touch points and all of that. how do you build that into a benchmark so that my new like word of the month is like patience, so that you're patient enough for the sale, but you're not bleeding money?
Well, there's so many needs out there that
Mhm.
we don't have a desire or a need to push people to make change. In fact, that's exactly the opposite of what we're looking for. So if a person has a compelling reason to make a change, those are the people that call the doctor to say, "I need to come and see you right now because my arm's falling off." That kind of deal. The people that say, "Hey, if anything good comes our way, let us know," and they
Mhm.
kind of are the shoppers per se. But we really have to sift through the volume of candidates that are available out there because the timing is very dynamic. We used the reference of a physician earlier. You can't predict when you're going to be sick. You can predict healthcare checkups and waypoints, things like that. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, you just don't predict it. It's sometimes just spontaneous, right?
Right.
There are also employers that have positions open for months and months and months. And those are also a danger to us because maybe they're just looking for something that we refer to as the purple squirrel. You ever see a purple squirrel? You know.
No, and I
So
hope I never do.
I know the other terminology that's very vogue in South Florida is a blue lobster. Because even though you'll see one out of like 5 million blue lobsters, we can't waste the time looking for a blue lobster because we would
Sure.
not be able to make our numbers and keep our doors open, so to speak.
Mhm.
So sometimes we have to walk these people and talk them off the ledge to say, "I know you really want this." Right. But let's break that job down into two different components. Instead of a director of sales and marketing, let's have a director of sales and a director of marketing. These people are much more available at reasonable compensation levels. And our role and function, Madeline, with our clients is to be a consultant and take them or lead them to where they want to go. If they are introduced to a client and the chemistry is good and they are looking forward to working with each other, that's what we're looking for. So, we're not the kind of sales force that pushes people into taking jobs for reasons that are other than their own. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I love the term being a consultant because so many times you hear, oh, recruiting firm or recruiters or, and you just think take place. And to your point, there's so much more into it, just like you said with the purple squirrel. Now, I can't use the term blue lobster because I'm from Maine and I used to date a lobsterman and I have seen many a blue lobster in my life, but they are, however, elusive in most other parts of the
They
country.
are. They're very elusive.
But I haven't seen a
Love it.
purple squirrel. Um, and are your franchisees now the people that are taking this charge on the consulting, the understanding the needs, or are they hiring for that, or is it a little bit of both?
Well, I think let's back into this for a moment.
Mhm.
In at American Recruiters at our corporate office as a franchisor, our
Yep,
customers are our franchisees,
correct.
right? So the facilities that hire from our franchisees are their customers, right?
Hmm.
So we try our training is revolved around what we call pull selling, and that's really identifying what it is they're looking for and matching them to opportunities that check all of their boxes.
Hmm.
And being a consultant is much different than being a poorly trained salesperson. And
Right.
that's the crux there. Some people in our business haven't been trained properly and they've been trained to be pushy and be aggressive and be
Mhm.
assertive. And we're not faulting them because they learned it wrong. It's just that right now the consumers are so smart that you have to appeal to their intellect and not try to appeal to an emotion that you hope they have. For example, a job change right now,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So we're very careful in how we train our consultants, and it shows. And that's how we have relationships that have been long standing over the many decades, because they know that we understand them and what they're looking for. We know them also as people, Madeline.
Mhm.
Sometimes early on in our conversation. You told me a little bit about your family and such. And, we know our people that well, and we know their dog's name, for example. I know that sounds cute, but, these develop the bonds of trust. And selling, regardless of what industry you're in, is all about trust, because people buy from people that they like and people that they trust. And without those two elements, it's kind of thrown up to chance. And that's
Right.
one of the things that makes us different is our training.
And I think that that is such a good thing to call out, is that especially for myself in marketing, I'm like, people want to buy from people they like. And as a franchisee, I know that people want to buy from people they know, in the local community. And so, keeping that as a focus, I think it's difficult when you work in as a franchisor, because you see so much more of the bottom line than the franchisees necessarily do in the day to day on the ground. They're seeing their fruits of their labor feed their children and help their community, and the franchisor has to see that on a secondary level, but also provide the support and the trust and the community that it takes to make that run. So clearly you have nailed that, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's very easy to lose sight of the importance of being a person and understanding people and being likable, and building your brand, that way. And so I have to ask now, what are your goals for American Recruiters moving forward? How many locations do you have now?
We have 11,
Okay,
and we started pushing for franchise sales just at the on the heels of the pandemic. We
sure.
had 5 that we've had since God made dirt. It was an interesting story of how we got into franchising. It was all people that we knew and that we liked, and we hadn't spent any money on marketing for franchising. People just came our way from these
Wow.
relationships that we talked
Yeah.
about, right? But we plan on growing to 50 offices within the next 36 months. And then a 5 year plan would be 75 offices, and then a 7 to 10 year plan upwards of 100.
Now that is incredible. I love that it's a, short term, long term goal here. And how do you approach franchise development? Because you're in the recruiting business, you understand how that happens. So, how are you coaching your team and building your goals around knowing the importance of a good candidate? Because I think a lot of people in franchising, they see the franchise fee, they want to say, I want to sell 50 units, I want to sell 100 units, and don't necessarily understand the patience or the importance it takes to really find the right candidate, which clearly you guys have already done, because you said you only took the first 4 or 5 from people that you know and liked. So, how are you building your goals around that?
Well, I think when we have traffic coming in, whether it's organic traffic for franchises or through our broker network, right? We still need a lot of different ways to hit our benchmarks and our goals. So anybody that's willing to help us and that has candidates that are a good fit for us, we want to talk to those people as soon as possible. But the thing is, and this might sound a little bit remedial, but okay, before I'm a franchisor, I'm a recruiter, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's all about matching people to what opportunities are out there. And usually, with my tenure in the business, within the first 5 minutes of that conversation, I'll have a good feel for if they're right for us. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of it has to do with their personality, their poise, their listening skills, their enthusiasm, their controlled interest. Are they a consultant, or are they maybe somebody that is not ready to sit in front of our customers and speak to the C suite intellectually? Right. So today's youth are recent college grads, and they may have a great enthusiasm, you know, but when you're speaking to the C suite, the enthusiasm might be diminished because they need that intellectual connection on how you can really help me, other than just saying we have good people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So because I'm a recruiter first, I get to determine if they're a good fit. And what we look for, Madeline, are people like you and me that are outgoing, enthusiastic, ambitious, that have excellent communication skills, both written and verbal, but can connect technically, as well as the intellectual intelligence, or the EQ as it's now referred to. Because once you have that bond with a prospect, you have a leg up in that you know them and they trust you because you know what you're talking about as a consultant, right? So,
Sure.
do I see somebody sitting in front of me that I can put in front of my best clients and they'll say, oh, yeah, they're an American Recruiter's definite profile, so to speak. Beyond that, then we get into the nitty gritty about the brand, the opportunity, the whole FDD, the item sevens, and the costs, and all those things. But I approach it as a recruiter before I approach it as a franchisor, because it's all about matching people with their skills.
Mhm.
Then there's chemistry, and then there's culture. Do they fit? And those three dimensions are really a big part of our recruiter training. And that's how, we match people to people rather than resumes to job openings. And that's where the algorithms of some of these job boards leave off. You can find
Sure.
55 resumes in your city that are accountants with a CPA background with 5 years of experience. But that employer doesn't want to interview all 50 people, right?
Right.
So they say, Gino, you net that down to the top two, three, four people, and based on what we're looking for, and that's what we need you for, to vet those people to make sure that they match our qualifications, not only on the technical side, but on the people side and the human dynamics, which really makes a relationship work. And they make good rudiments for new recruiters to learn, because we want placements that stick.
Hmm.
Say, so if employers use us and our people stay, they have confidence in us. And trust is really what selling is all about, regardless of what industry you're a professional in. Doesn't matter if they know you're good for it. And every now and then something will go awry, and we'll have to say, you know what, we're going to fix that. Don't you worry about it. We treat you as a partner, and we're going to replace that person because we want our relationship to always be square, right? And they trust us for that.
Sure. And now after talking to you, I'm like, why does every company use, American recruiters or a recruiting firm? Because you have that extra layer of support and understanding. I've seen it from the corporate side and also franchise as a franchisee, is that the importance of finding the culture fit alongside of the skill set is the most important part. And unfortunately, I think due to maybe workload or seasonality or speed of things, a lot of times that falls to the wayside. And you say, okay, this person can do the job. I can train them. It's fine. I might be a passive owner. I'll let the managers deal with it. And it really wreaks havoc on the system. And my husband and I are dealing with that right now in one of our businesses. It's just, we're going to have to gut and start from the beginning, because
Yeah.
it's just a more of a headache personality wise than necessarily getting the jobs done. And which brings me to, one of my questions is, for somebody, whether it be a franchisee or a franchisor that's coaching their franchisees, what are some of your tips in terms of coaching people through a hiring process? And I don't mean in that what you've kind of already discussed, find the right fit, don't take just anyone. But do you have any, deeper insights into maybe a franchisee that's really going through it? Seems like they can never find the right person, or they're scared to let maybe their legacy employee go. I try to talk to people about finding those A players is not a daily occurrence, right? But you can't hang on to the C, D players, because they're also going to not help grow your business. So
Yeah.
what do you say to the people that are really just feeling it now, thinking that recruiting is just difficult, their business isn't going to be successful because it seems like they can just never find the right people?
Well, that's a very poignant question, because
Mhm.
recently we've gotten into the contract staffing side of the business, which helps employers in those predicaments to fill an immediate need with a
Mhm.
less than permanent employee while they try and look for the permanent solution. That could be anything from an accounting need to a technology need. Frankly, some of our nurse leadership positions are often asking for maybe an interim nurse leader while they find their permanent person. So our service now provides a bridge to that chasm. So in your particular situation, Madeleine, if you just needed someone to work a shift, whatever business you're in,
Mm-hmm.
you can get people for us for shift work while we're helping you find the person that is going to be the heir apparent to that role.
I like that. Kind of like
Right.
a bridge person. Yeah.
And it's also, it gives sometimes employers an opportunity to rent before they buy, so to
Right.
speak, with people.
Right.
So I'm a big believer in what I call behavioral based interviewing rather than competency based interviewing. An example would be if you're training a cashier, that's a technical thing, right? That's a competency based thing. You push here, enter here, add the sales tax, and hit this and swipe the card, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
The competency things are how do they deal with people and problems? If you're put into a certain situation, how would you handle that and why?
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the questions that'll help sift through the pool of applicants, no matter how large or small that pool may be, to zero in on finding the right intellect, the right mindset for the people that you're going to have interface with your customers.
I love this, Gino. This is like a master class on recruiting, and everyone is just going to absolutely dig it. And we're coming up on time, but I have a final 2-part question. And I never tell people this ahead of time because I always like the answers on the fly. But now, being in the business, being in franchising, being, all your experience, if you could give a piece of advice to a franchisee, what would it be? And if you could give a piece of advice to a franchisor, what would that be?
Well, to a franchisee, it's very simple. It's follow the system. And that's the whole rule of franchising. People get into the business so they don't have to recreate the wheel. And there are some people out there that kind of like to operate outside the lines, so to speak, and try push the envelope. Once they've developed a certain competency and they're doing well on their own and they want to try new things, hey, I'm all for that. I love to learn new things, especially with my tenure in the business. As far as franchisors go, I think there's a couple things, but if I had to say just one, would your customers buy from them?
I like that. And that is just like an epic mic drop, is this simple question that, it's the end all be all. Like, because I've been through that Fran Dev process time and time again, and you've got the scorecard. I like him, I don't like him, but at the end of the day, are your customers going to buy from this person? Would you buy from this person? And I think that makes an incredible, easy answer for the room as a whole. Well, Gino, thank you so much for coming on and just talking us through this. Everyone go and check out Gino on LinkedIn. Check out American Recruiters. I know that I'm going to make sure every brand that I talk to now gets synced up with this, because it just seems like everyone says there's no silver bullet in, recruitment and retention, but I think I might have just found one. So, Gino, thank you again. And we'll be sure to see you around in the franchise family.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Franchise Marketing. This show is brought to you by NetCertive. We help franchise brands and multi-location businesses run localized digital marketing at scale. To learn more, visit netcertive.com.